Long before Luke and Jock graced us with their presence, some of Nova Scotia's first automobiles were being invented. They now rest at the Museum of Industry in Stellarton.
We're here in the auto showroom at the Museum of Industry.
We're going to check out two of the oldest cars manufactured here in Nova Scotia.
Mary, what can you tell us about what we're looking at right here?
This is the Victorian, a horseless carriage that was made just up the road in Hopewell along the East River by John MacArthur, and he was a furniture maker by trade. And it was not unusual for that to happen for early auto manufacturers to have a background in something like furniture making or carriage making.
When John MacArthur first built this vehicle, he had no experience in building vehicles at all. He did this entirely from his imagination.
What's really cool about that is, through his imagination, he came up with a functioning differential, similar to what we have in today's cars, but fully exposed. And back then, you couldn't go to a differential store and get the parts, so he had to design and get the pattern made and have the gears actually manufactured. And what's really cool as well is it didn't have brakes like a traditional car, drums and rotors, etc. It has a differential brake where the brake pad actually wraps around the main gear and locks on it, and that's how the vehicle stops.
So how fast would this go? Probably about 100 kilometers an hour?
Oh, well, maybe he would have liked that, but it went about 5 miles an hour, and it had trouble with hills.
Oh, wow.
Trouble with hills.
It was a one-off.
Kind of like Luke.
Yeah. So imagine flying down the road at 5 miles an hour. These things aren't like our own vehicles where you just put your foot down on the brake and stop. There's a whole procedure to it.
Yeah, the clutch system is kind of like a reverse clutch. In today's cars, you apply the clutch to stop. In these vehicles, you have to engage the clutch to move. So when you're driving down the road, you got the steering stick in one hand and you got to stop. So you got to release the clutch, put your hand on the handbrake, no foot brake, and apply on the foot brake. So it's a whole 3 things you got going on just to stop from a blazing speed of 5 miles an hour.
Now the boys move on to something a little more advanced. Say something from 1912.
What about this over here? This is a much more modern looking vehicle.
Yes, this is the 7-passenger Mackay touring car, what was originally the Nova Scotia Carriage Company. And the Mackay brothers bought the company in 1908, and just a couple of years later they started to make cars. So they were taking the skills that were applicable to carriage making, the carpentry and the metalwork and so on, and then they installed these engines which they imported from the United States.
This here's the Buddha engine. It wasn't manufactured by the Mackay company. If you look, it's very basic, no sensors, nothing that you see in the modern cars. It's just bare bones.
If you look at these little brass valves, they had to pour gas into each one of those every time they started the vehicle.
Very basic, but still very innovative for 1912.
So Mary, how did you acquire a vehicle like this? Like they look pretty rare.
Yeah, well, only 175 were produced by the company, and not too many of them survived. This one was actually found in pieces in a barn in the Gaspereau Valley in the 1970s.
Oh, so we can't take it for a test ride?
No, I'm afraid it wasn't restored to functional condition.
Okay.
The Pictou County Antique Auto Club did it for us in the 1980s, and they made it look beautiful.
And so this was called a rich man's toy?
Yes, I think it was regarded that way, and there was a lot of resistance around the province.
So how much would this particular model cost when it was first produced?
It was around $2,300.
Okay, well, yeah. I just want to let you know that we're actually in the market for a vehicle.
We actually have one that we'd like to trade straight up. It's an 84 Chevy Carrier van.
You got to realize that we have to actually put a roof on this.
Yeah, so this is another downfall.
That's true, yes.
We'd be doing you a favor of taking this off your hands. A
Hardly.
non-running vehicle missing a roof.
I think we'll keep it.
Okay.